The Eastern Cape Education Superintendent-General, Dr. Naledi Mbude, has been suspended. Premier Oscar Mabuyane says that the suspension is on full pay and comes as investigation is being conducted into the affairs of the department. The Provincial Education Department has been under the spotlight due to the delayed supply of learner support material and the subsequent court order regarding that matter. Mabuyane says that other issues relate to the non-payment of education assistance last year and the loss of a 205 million rand conditional infrastructure grant from the National Department due to underspending. For more on this, we're joined via Zoom by the Eastern Cape Premier spokesperson, Khuselwa Rantjie. Thank you so very much for joining us, ma'am, here on SABC News.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to you and your viewers.
Let's talk about this investigation that is being conducted by the Premier's office leading to these suspensions. But, you know, on the back of that question, I'd like to ask, why are things always discovered late? I mean, why were things not red flagged a long time ago? Surely before there's been, for instance, a loss of 205 million rand from the grant due to underspending, there should have been a red flag even at the first million. Why is it red flag so late?
It's not that the provincial government is having an issue in terms of red flags being late, but every government department is allowed time and space to better respond to the issues or to put in place measures to recover and ensure that performance targets are met, as well as the budget is spent according to the plans that have been put in place. So the Premier has had to allow the department to go through those processes, and then unfortunately it has led to this point where this kind of action has had to be taken.
Yeah, the department was also taken to court at some point for non-delivery. There were issues around textbooks. I'm sure you can tell us more about that particular issue. But there was a court case, and in fact, some people even joining as friends of the court to take the department to court. Where has that case now gone? And given the fact that the HOD has now been suspended, how will the work of the department continue? I suppose there's an interim HOD, but that interim HOD obviously has to get more information, and so it becomes quite a vicious cycle, isn't it?
These two things will go together. The investigation into the actual matters that have caused the delays in the delivery of the stationery, the delays in the payment of the educator assistance, as well as trying to understand better what has caused the under expenditure of the 205 million we have spoken about. So to date, the department has put measures in place to recover in terms of ensuring that stationery is delivered to the schools that it was required to deliver to. As of last night, the reports that we received was that there are about less than 70 schools where the department has had to make sure that before the end of this week, they do deliver that stationery to those schools. So I'm saying that these two things will go together. There is an interim HOD in place, and that HOD has been tasked to make sure that the work of the department continues whilst the Premier or the team that has been appointed by the Premier investigates the matters that have led
Are you saying that the books haven't been delivered? Are you saying that the books have still not been delivered? I for one, covered the story about 2 months ago. We're now going into the second term. Are you saying that those schools that had not had their books and stationery delivered have still not been delivered? Learners are now going into the second term. How is that acceptable?
The books have been delivered. Remember that even at the beginning of this whole process, we did say as government that it is not the full material that has not been distributed. And therefore, the school or the learning and teaching has been happening in the school. At this stage, there are about less than 70 schools out of the total population in the Eastern Cape that we've got to make sure before the end of this week those textbooks or stationery items are delivered. So yes, we regret that there has been some interruption in the manner in which learners are supposed to be receiving the education as the complete set of what they required was not where it was supposed to be. And therefore, hence, the Premier has to look closely into this matter to make sure that, firstly, it is dealt with accordingly, and secondly, that we avoid any such occurrence in the future. We would note that the team that the Premier has appointed to look into this matter, it comprises of people that are specialists in terms of budget management, in terms of procurement, as well as in terms of broader HR issues, so that we make sure that in the event that there are some issues that have to do with the systems within the department, those issues are taken care of, and we avoid such occurrence in the future.
Yeah, the Premier, as you say, is looking into the matter closely, and there's currently an investigation into the matter, and I suppose and I would assume it should be happening into the whole department then of education, and not just the HOD. But in the meantime, there should have been something that you've discovered, as you begin this investigation. What is the root cause of some of the problems that are found in the Department of Education? Because I will tell you that we're often covering stories in the Eastern Cape regarding the Department of Education, and so there has to be some sort of issue, root cause, and what are you seeing as one of the red flags? I mean, a lot of people would easily just assume it's some sort of corruption at play, but what have you identified?
That's what we need to understand at this stage. As I've said, the suspension of the HOD only happened yesterday, and today the Premier has then appointed this team, and this team will look into the detail or deeply into the matters that surround all these three issues that I have mentioned. And therefore, the expectation is that the team will focus on this for a period of a month, and thereafter bring a report to the Premier. And I think it is at that stage that we will be able to understand in full what the situation is and what is it that government needs to do to make sure that this does not happen again in the future.
All right. Thanks very much for talking to us, and we'll certainly be getting hold of you later on in terms of finding out how far that investigation is. That is the spokesperson for the Eastern Cape Premier, Khuselwa Rantjie, speaking to us there.